So the Cyhawk Trophy is here on the first Saturday of September. Rich history with this rivalry game. And it always seems to be close. And it's not even just under Matt Campbell, though. It's been more competitive under Matt Campbell. You can even go all the way back. 2002, Iowa had a perfect Big Ten season, but they had one blemish on the regular season schedule. That was to the Iowa State Cyclones and Seneca Wallace. This is a really fun rivalry game, and I'm excited to talk about it because it's going to be on the grand stage on Saturday at noon, big noon kickoff over on Fox. For those of you new around here, my name is Colin Bashniegel, the host here at Bash's College Football Show, and you can find me over here on TikTok if you just look up Bash's CFB Show, where we have a lot more interaction. Yeah, I didn't worry about the pennants this week because I am just so in and out of the house this week that it's kind of hard for me really to do that. I need to focus on doing these videos to the best of my capability. And presentation is a huge part in that. But I had other things that took a priority over shifting around pennants, which takes a good 20 to 30 minutes to do. It doesn't take that much time, but enough time to where it was like I really shouldn't go and do that for the sake of a couple videos. And we're going to have 3 previews this week. We could probably do more, but I think 3 will do the trick. I might move them around here in a little bit, give my voice a rest before we do record the next video. But you're going to see all of these videos recorded tonight. This one's going to drop immediately. The next one is going to be dropped tomorrow, and then you should see it Thursday night on the 3rd preview video. And then we're going to do Walk That Line on Friday once we get home. So without further ado, let's get straight into this game. We got the Iowa State Cyclones hosting Iowa, their arch rival. And like I said, this game, Matt Campbell, Kirk Ferentz, those two squaring off, it just seems like a back and forth battle, a pendulum that just keeps swinging back and forth. Last year in Kinnick Stadium, Iowa State was able to storm in there and get a walk-off field goal to be a big statement win that vaulted them into the Big 12 season on the right note. And Rocco Becht has experience doing that now. I mean, that was what? He hadn't had that many starts. That might have only been his 2nd career start at that point. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't exactly remember, but if this is his 2nd or 3rd year starting, I feel like it's his 3rd. But regardless, Iowa State, you know, they've started off the season on offense looking pretty good. Like, you can be very optimistic with what you see. So for starters, even though his stats weren't great in Ireland and that freaking disaster of a football field, and that's not a football field, by the way, it's the wrong football. Rocco Becht did, to me, play really, really clutch. He was tough and went and ran for yards when he needed to, scrambled when he needed to, lowered his shoulder to pick up a first down, and he had 2 deep balls, or at least over-the-top throws into the end zone that were absolute dots. He was really clutch. And then against South Dakota, he was able to piece it all together. And it looked really good against lesser competition. Now, these wide receivers are going to have to gel. They have a challenge with the secondary. I mean, you're talking about Xavier Nwankpa as one of the safeties back there who's just a star. He was a highly ranked recruit. Then you have a couple other guys, Deshaun Lee and TJ Hall. Those are really good experienced corners. And not to mention that this front 7 is going to be very, very tough. Like Iowa front 7s just always are under Phil Parker. So who's going to be that wide receiver that steps up as an alpha? You could argue you had 2 last year. I would say Jaden Higgins was more so that speed, but Jalen Knoll was certainly quality enough to be an alpha in that room. So who's going to take that role? Will it be Eli Green, the experienced guy who's been there a little while? Will it be somebody like Chase Soule, who ended up coming in the transfer portal, or Xavier Townsend? That's going to be the big question that I have watching for Iowa State this year, because you know they have dogs at tight end. You know they're really good at running back. Their O-line really impressed early this season. How is Iowa State going to be able to handle this Phil Parker defense if they don't have one of these receivers step up? It is incredibly important that one of these receivers step up for Iowa State in this game, because I'm not sure how much offensive success they can have. They had those 2 guys last year when they went into Kinnick. They don't have that right now. And that's still a concern as we near towards Big 12 play for Iowa State. Now, on the other side of things, Iowa, they have their own question marks about their offense. It took them a minute to get going against Albany a week ago, but they ended up getting going and looking pretty solid in the second half. And I think that Mark Gronowski being able to use his legs and be a playmaker is critical for the Iowa Hawkeyes here. He's got a threat to run the ball on play action to where not only do you have to really worry about the play action pass, but you got to worry about him taking off and picking up a crucial first down. So that's going to help out Kamari Moulton a whole lot because the defense is always going to have to apply extra resources to stopping the mobility of Mark Gronowski. And Kamari Moulton in this run game, I think, could get going behind a really, really talented and good offensive line over at Iowa. Certainly, are they as talented out wide as Iowa State even now? No, I don't think so. But they still have some players that they're pretty confident in. They think Jacob Gill's a really good player. Wedgen is a really explosive player. And then they have a good tight end in Ostregna taking Luke Lachey's spot. So I don't think Iowa's really worried about it. They're able to stick with their identity and add a little bit of mobility to the quarterback. And I don't think Mark Gronowski is less effective throwing the football than the quarterbacks they've had the past few years. I mean, Cade McNamara, they had Spencer Petras. These guys are not very good. So I think this Iowa offense is comfortable in their identity. And I think the big thing that when you just examine this game from the side that the angle we really took on both sides of the ball, you just feel like with this Iowa State defense that their biggest weakness and my biggest fear for them all year is going to be being able to prevent the explosive play. Well, lucky enough for you, Iowa is not an explosive offense. So Iowa State's defense is just going to naturally hold Iowa's offense in check. I think the issue comes here. I don't think Iowa State's going to be able to play mistake-free football on the offensive side of the ball. I think the big problem Iowa State's going to run into is going to be a frustration with the, how do I put this? It's going to be a problem with Iowa State's offense of patience. I think at some point they're going to run out of patience, especially if Iowa in the first half is able to apply the pressure and take a little bit of a lead. Not much. It could be like 7-0 or 10-7. That's all it's going to take to put a lot of pressure on Iowa State and Rocco Becht to force the issue. And once you force the issue, this Iowa team can, just like a boa constrictor, can just tighten up and strangle you. And I think that's what they're going to do. My final prediction for this ball game is going to be Iowa pulling it out on the road 17-14. I think we got a low scoring game, a very low scoring game that Iowa was able to pull out and hold off Iowa State trying to drive into field goal range. And unlike last year, this time they cannot do that. That is my prediction video for Iowa and Iowa State. Cyhawk is incredible. I can't wait to watch this game. I'll see you guys in the next video.